Good evening. My name's Kathy Gill. Tonight, I would like to invite Carolyn Ienna from Wiradjuri Nation, but I believe here in Sydney at the moment, to give us acknowledgement of country. So over to you, Caroline. Thank you.
Hi, just seeing if I'm on screen properly and people can hear me.
I can.
Oh, okay. Cool. I'm going to wear my glasses. Okay. Yiradoomarang, Uwindu Carolyn. Nadu bunny gubara Gadigal Mayingalang. Nadu bunigu mujigangu. Biyambugul maradalbul yandulbul yinjaman ninjul nulaway gunawa mandanguwu. So basically what I said is, g'day, my name is Carolyn. I would like to acknowledge the Gadigal people. I would like to acknowledge all the elders, past and present, and respect them for a long time. And I said, thank you. I'm a Wiradjuri woman, rapper, hip-hop artist, woman, and my mother lives on country in a place called Bathurst since colonisation. Until now, I haven't spoken our language, and that's still a process because my language, as with many Aboriginal peoples, was taken from us and not allowed for a long time. The First Nations people looked after this area and exists still today. Personally, I know some Gadigal people and they defied the false narrative that they are wiped out. They are creative, connected to country. All false narratives about colonisation and Aboriginal bodies need to be challenged, and I ask that all allies challenge them also. Remember us whenever you go and understand, even though we don't own land in the sense that white people do, this continent is our mother. I say continent as there are many Aboriginal countries within this land. We do not recognise the colonisers since the takeover in 1770 and will always resist such. We are in a state of war right now. I would also like to acknowledge all other First Nations peoples from this continent and continents far away. I would like to share my deep sorrow for those that live under the illegal occupations, as so many First Nations people are. Please accept my condolences.
Wow, thank you, Carolyn. Thank you for that beginning to our forum. So I'd like to also acknowledge the continuing and ongoing custodianship of this land, and that sovereignty has never been ceded. And tonight I'm talking from Bidjigal and Gadigal country. Okay, so as an introduction, we wish to thank our speakers for giving their time to speak out on this profound topic. Sovereignty and self-determination are the core of human rights, and until we walk the path to justice and the full enjoyment of human rights of our First People, we will all be living diminished lives. Tonight is an opportunity to listen and learn how we can stand in solidarity on that path. We acknowledge everyone who's listening online. We are recording this event and do hope to have it online for those not able to attend. If you wish, you may send comments or questions via the chat line. This forum has been organised by Stop the Intervention Collective Sydney, and we may be contacted via that website. We have been meeting online, but welcome your interest to join us. Our organisation has been speaking out against the injustices of the intervention for many years, and we look forward to its conclusion in June 2022. What we must remain vigilant for is that those draconian measures never see the light of day again. What occurs in 2022 must be a new relationship with First Nations people of the Northern Territory. This relationship must truly acknowledge First Nation people's sovereignty and their self-determination. It is now my great honour to welcome our first speaker. Mongunu Ian Gumbula is a Daywurrwurr, Gupapuyŋu man and Yolŋu Elder. I hope I said those right, Mongunu, from the Northern Territory. He is a cultural governance manager within the Yoorgabilya Development Aboriginal Corporation, the Cultural Governance Board, which is the main decision-making board. And he has said that, quote, cultural governance structure in our Aboriginal corporations is a must for current and future local decision-making by local elders and leaders. So please welcome Mongunu. Thank you, Mongunu.
Thank you for this invite, and thank you for sharing my background, who I am, and thank you to all those people that are listening. As I said myself, I'm a Gupapuyŋu leader and elder. I've been working here in this community for so long with another group of tribes, family groups, which is really a strong focus point of what we're trying to achieve through our time now as we go on this journey as a decision maker of our country, which is really a good thing to see in our community. That will benefit, the flow will benefit to the younger generation to come, which is we are very, very strong on what we believe is our time now and for the coming years. And you know, these we hold the very important position within our community, within our country, about the way we live, the way we demonstrate, the way we can work with others, and the things that are coming to us that we should be experiencing, whether that is a good thing or not. It lies within our life, because what we make is what they get later on, and this is things that been happening in the past, and things that not been dealt really well, of talking to right people, talking to the people of the land, that we don't seen as people, ordinary people. We are seen as an important people, the First Nation people, the first people of this country. And we want to be acknowledged and appreciate that we are the owners of our land, the things that we practice. We practice our every day throughout our day, our life. And it is good to have to express our feelings, because that feelings has been taken away. And we sometimes on hurt, and our leaders in the past didn't have an opportunity to speak like that I do now, because they hadn't have any support of able to speak out or voice out what their real feelings are towards their land, because it was taken out by other force that comes into our land. And we saying, okay, this is what had happened. We treasure that as our stepping stones, and we will work with, and we will fight with that through now to the future by standing and saying, look, this is our right as a people of the land. This is our values. This is our practices. This is we can demonstrate this while our people are growing and growing. So I think that's a strong message on how we want to show and demonstrate that this is our feeling, this is our heart are saying. It is a cry for our people. It's a cry for our country, which is really, I don't, really see that good things comes from our friends that comes in, but it has to be good things coming from my people. Good things that comes from my people. That's the heart of what the change will occur. Yeah. I think that's just enough. I forgot to. I just wanted to pay my respect to the land of we are speaking out from. People that have struggled, people that are struggling now, that the continuation of that lifespan that are hanging on us, that we need to, us ourselves, we need to get out from this shell, because it's no use staying inside the shell. We need to break it up, and we need to break it out ourselves. It's nobody's gonna break that thing, only us to break that thing. And I think it's very important that we stand with our feet on our motherland, and it's healing us, and it's giving us strength, giving us energy, wisdom that comes from our land, wisdom that comes from our story. As a leader, working with many young people, many people that are in our community, they're starting to say, look, we showing ourselves, this is it. This is where we are, who we are. And this is what the strength we have of working and joining with other countrymen that go through with the similar reactions, similar affect, that we have the same story, that we have to have the same journey. So we can go through the big storm, we can go through the dust, we can go through the deep water, we can go through all these things, but we're the ones that will capture that, will capture that journey ourselves. And the support that may have to come on has to be in the hands of our people. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Mongunu. I think we want to ask questions, but I since I've got the voice here now, I just ask, do you feel that's building stronger? Do you feel that voice and the people's voices together and working together? Like I'm aware that you worked with Yoorgabilya in the recent elections so that you supported each other. Do you feel the support is growing stronger?
I think from that, the experience that I had working with another Yolŋu leader, it's like building up something that we're hoping for. That we need to sort of be known to anyone, be known to anybody, on whether they're high, whether they're low, whether they're in the middle. This is it. This is the time that we need to give them awakening, because the Spirit is with us.
The Spirit is with you.
Yeah. Because there's the Spirit that see at last the people of this land is on the surface. It's on the surface. It's on the surrounding. Getting up, and it's really going through all these things that we never had. We was in our own yard doing all these things, strengthening that thing. To go into another world, we need to capture that what we know.
Oh, that's
what we don't know.
Yes. Okay, well, I'm sure I speak for everyone listening that it's a privilege to be able to really hear your voice and the power and the strength. You can feel the power and the strength of where that voice comes from. So thank you very much, Mongunu. And we'll be talking further, I think, as we go on.
Yeah. But I just wanted to say thank you to rest of the team and a team that are sitting with me. It's just something that goes into my spirit, into my heart.
Yes.
Being long for this support from my own cultural backgrounds, to see others in other countries starting to think the same thing, that what we're all going through, and how to come together as one people of this nation. Yes. To stand up for this country. That is really a privilege for me to be talking like this and seeing our countrymen on the panel that I like to listen what will come up, because we want to get our people be a driver,
yes,
a builder of this country.
Yes.
Yep.
And that's self-determination, isn't it? Because
yes.
You have the answers and the knowledge and the strength. All right. Thanks so much, Mongunu. I'll introduce our next speaker. Okay, so just give me a moment here, because sorry. Okay, so our next speaker is also from the Northern Territory, and that is Aunty June, and we practice this Gunluckiinimul Mills, Larrakia Elder, and traditional owner of Larrakia land, Northern Territory. She's a singer, songwriter, artist, and First Nations rights activist. She has long worked to build cultural strength in youth and to speak out against fracking and environmental destruction, and is a strong advocate for justice and human rights for all. So thank you, Aunty June. And look, I can say for all speakers tonight, it's been quite a journey for a lot of these speakers to just be here, and we're very grateful. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And we're very grateful for the opportunity too, darling, to have a voice. You know, all of us are all around the country, and this is a really wonderful opportunity for us to speak together and connect. And thank you, Mongunu, for that beautiful talk, introduction to your country. And what I'm hearing very strongly from your brother is cultural maintenance and cultural determination, self-determination in your own way, in your own place, which is really wonderful and strengthening for all of us.
Thank you, Auntie.
Yeah, thank you, darling. And I think we all got struggled to hold back the tears when you talk, because we're all feeling the pain and the struggle. However, that's not going to stop us. We'll go till our last breath, and we all know that, and we all appreciate that. Here in Darwin, it's and you know, I can speak also for as far away as Jawan country and Gurindji country. My grandmother from Gurindji country, Kalkarinji. You know, we're talking about self-determination and sovereignty. This is unfinished business for all of us. And the thing is, most Australians wouldn't even have a clue what we're talking about. They wouldn't even know that we exist. And this requires mass education, which the government is not going to necessarily jump up and put out the true story of what's happened right across this continent to our peoples. This needs mass education, mass action. Still, 2020, 232 years of oppression, suppression, and genocidal practices against our people that continues to this day. That is exactly why in the jails in Darwin, it's up to 80–90% is all of our people in the jails. In the juvenile detention centre, it's 100% Aboriginal children, 100% Aboriginal children. Since the investigation, Royal Commission into Dondale, nothing has changed. Nothing has, there's no betterment. We still don't have any incorporation of the recommendations of the Royal Commission into black deaths in custody. Not one has been implemented. These are things that need to be picked up and brought forward again. It's still unfinished business, genocidal practice. They do what they like. The most draconian laws and bills and everything they roll out onto our people. The intervention, which is still going on, there's an absolute assault on human rights and the abuse of the First Nations peoples here in the territory, which continues. They've heard all the arguments, they've heard all the protests, and they continue with this, with these things on our people. The only way I can look at it, when they have all the evidence that it's designed, all this basic card business, all of this stuff that's going on in, to our people, is meant to keep us busy on the basic survival of a day-to-day basis, so we don't actually get the breathing space to organize ourselves and fully pursue our rights as a people. This is our land. It's stolen land. It's illegal occupation, and we have to fight for it. But you're flat out fighting for these basics right when you're trying to feed your kids on a daily basis, with nothing in a remote community, using a basic card with very little access to all sorts of stuff. I can't even begin to explain. There's not enough time to explain the way the basic card system and the cardless thing is going to impact on people. Can't even begin to explain how the COVID stuff happened, how our people suffered horrifically, absolutely horrifically. There should be a Royal Commission into what was going on during the COVID lockdown here in the Northern Territory with our remote community, people trying to get funerals, not even being allowed into a community, let alone go to a funeral. but just being allowed to just access their communities or go home to community just to be with family. It's horrific. It's uncalled for. The only thing I know from my forefathers and my foremothers is that the only thing that we've ever achieved in the 232 years has been achieved through protest, hitting the streets, fighting damned hard, almost to the point of death. You know, it's obscene. It's really disgustingly obscene that we have to fight so hard for the most basic rights. Now, the only thing we have to educate, we have to get it out there into the international arena. I don't have all the answers, but I tell you what, people need to know what's going on in this country, and I'll guarantee you most Australians don't even know what's going on in this country in terms of the way they're treating our people across the board, and the disadvantage and the impoverished below the poverty line, all this stuff. It's not really well known, is it? And we need to get it out there. The only thing I have a lot of faith and hope in the recent times is social media, in fact, and the internet. When the internet came in 1990, you know, a light bulb went off in my head and I went, wow, okay, now we don't need middlemen. Now we don't need this, that we can actually talk directly to the world through the internet and now through social media. That has got incredible power for us to organise and talk to each other just like this, which I didn't have, you know, in my younger days. That thing that makes me happy into the future, because I tell you what, 2021, fracking is going through the roof here in the Northern Territory. These clowns, I'm not going to say clowns, sorry. These politicians,
Yes.
I've got to find a better word than clowns, because I love clowns. There's nothing wrong with clowns. You know, actually, I had a clown come up to me at the last rally, the Death Club, and said, Aunty June, you know, I'm a clown. You know, anyway, I'm like, I'm not going to say clown anymore. I'm going to say something else, but I haven't worked that word out yet. But anyway, the Chief Minister has said that 55% of the territory to be fracked, right? Now, fracking is the most disgusting, stupid, unnecessary, filthy industry that I've ever heard of in my life. And the fact that we're going to have to fight so damned hard, and we might not even succeed, to stop fracking, huh? To stop fracking in the Northern Territory. And where do they want to frack? They want to frack Badu Basin. They want to, that's all that. If you ever been to Mataranka, Roper River, all these pristine waters, spring waters, they want to frack all this country. And that's, what's that going to mean? It's going to be poisoning everything. And they're trying to make it like, oh, they're trying to do deals with all our people over fracking. And they're making some headway, don't you worry, because people don't fully understand what fracking is. They might hear the word, they might know mining or to some level, but they don't have the full information about fracking. And to me, it's all about land acquisition, poisoning the water, what they've been doing for 232 years. Well, poisoning water has gone to a whole new level, and it's going to happening here. I don't think that any human being on this, in the world, not only in the Northern Territory, or even, you know, in New South Wales, the Narrabri ladies, I talked to them a couple of weeks ago, fighting for, down there. Bruce Shillingworth, fighting over there for water. Eh? All of our people. When we should be educating our children, we should be enjoying our children, our grandchildren. I shouldn't be losing time with my grandchildren because I'm fighting fracking every minute of my life. But hey, that's my life. And I'll tell you what, I'll fight it till my last breath. But it's disgusting, it's unnecessary. But I think the biggest mistake we can ever make is to think that, oh, it's 2020 and, you know, it's okay. Well, no, it's not okay. It's actually worse. Deaths in custody is going up. Incarceration rates are going up. The policing of our people is going up, 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 up. It's at whole new high levels. It's disgusting. We can't, you know, in 232 years, our people have not had a chance to lick our wounds. And we're the walking wounded. I'm sorry to say that, yeah, we're deadly, we're still there and fighting, but hey, when do we get a chance to pull together and feel our pain and our losses and so anyway, sorry, but the most important thing in all of this, because as well as the fight, you know what it is? The cultural maintenance with brother there, Mongunu, talking about the most important thing, because along with the fight, we have to maintain our culture. But what's the sense in us maintaining our fight when our kids don't even know who they are? They don't even know what their dreamings are. They don't even know where their dreamings are. And is their dreaming still there? Maybe it's already been bulldozed. But we have to maintain that storyline. We have to keep on teaching them, because I tell you what, if the government would have their way, we'd just be all, you know, Aussies, we just came in from Africa on the last boatload or some damn thing. We're going to maintain our narrative about our truth, which is we've been here from day one. Hello? Day one, from the first sunrise. And our children have got to know that, our grandchildren have got to know that. Our DNA runs through this land, and the mother is our land. And if, you know, we can fight as much as we want, and we go to the future and that, but if our babies don't know the basics, eh? Mate. So that's what we've got to do. But at the same, we've got so many jobs on our hands, it's not funny. On the one hand, we're teaching our cultural business, our spiritual sacredness, which is us. We carry the law. We carry the spirituality of this place. We are actually the masters of survival. We can teach the whole world how to survive, because I tell you what, this world is going to shit. It's going to shit. And we're the ones that are going to be the saviors when there's nothing else, when they have their little nuclear wars and they want to wipe out everything and they want to, you know, do all this stuff. Guess who's going to be still standing? Us. And we are the ones with the master. We have the skills of survival. We will survive anything, right? But guess what? They're fast learning our tricks too. Don't teach them too much. Hang on to our intellectual properties. Hang on to our intellectual knowledges. Don't be too easy to share. No, we're not sharing. We're maintaining. We can look after our DNA, because they're trying to wipe us out. Still, believe it or not, they're still trying to get us. They're still trying to wipe us from the earth. Well, we've got to maintain our intellectual properties, our sacred properties, our sacred laws, our intellectual knowledges. We've got to hold on to them tight. We might let a little bit out. Hey, they don't get the inside story, because that's ours. And if we're going to give up our inside story, then we might as well cut our own throats, hey? Because there's no use for us anymore. They're sucking the knowledge out of us. They're sucking everything out of us. They are still raping the land. They're raping us. They're raping our children. Our children are a commodity. Our children are an industry for these people, right? Enough's enough. These are the things that we have to, because we've got so much on our hands, it's not funny, but we need to pick our fights. Pick our fights. That's what I do every day. Every day I'm picking my fights, because, hey, I haven't got time for that. I haven't got time for this. I've got to go and do this. And this is what's happening. And it's sad. It's sad for all of our beautiful elders out there, our sacred elders right across this land, who got the knowledge, who've got the intellectual sacredness to hand down to the next generation, which has to happen. It has to happen. And yet we're busy in the fight of survival on a day-to-day basis. And the government know what they're doing. Do not be fooled. They know exactly what they're doing. Keep these fellas busy trying to just feed their kids on a day-to-day basis, just trying to get on a bus with a basic car, or whatever. Let's keep them busy so they can't get together to fight for their rights sufficient to the point where truth be known. If we got the truth, we can back them into the corner, because truth has its own power, and we are the truth. And they want to get rid of the truth because they're thieves, liars, Murderers! Murderers! That's what they are. And that's what their culture is. We are not, we are a culture of, sorry if I don't mean to be talking to you like that, but you know what we are. We are a culture of peace. We are a culture of sacredness, spirituality, sharing. We are not exclusive. We are inclusive people. That's why when you come to our country, you get a name, you get a skin, you get everything. Because we are inclusive. We are caring, sharing. We are the people that will save the planet. Right? We have the skills. We are the masters of survival. And we should be able to be doing our business without hindrance from the murderers, thieves, illegal occupiers, usurpers. Love yous. Love yous.
Thank you. Wow, Aunty June, all power to you. Oh, amazing. Oops, I think you got muted. That's brilliant. Thank you so much. Once again, what can I say? The privilege of all of us to be here, and from the heart of everyone, since they're all muted, I have to say it. Thank you so much. All right, now I'd like to introduce our next speaker, and that is Marianne Yoorgabilya Mackay, and she's a Nyoongar woman from Western Australia. We quoted Marianne in our media release, and I would like to read that out now. She said, "Sovereignty never ceded. The notion of terra nullius used to invade what they call Australia was overturned in the High Court case of Mabo No. 2 in 1992. That was 28 years ago. Yet these lands continue to remain illegally occupied, with a government running a dictatorship, when the First Peoples' voices on the ground are the legal voices of this country and must be heard." So, Marianne, over to you. Thank you.
Hey, Kai, mob. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Aunty June, and the other speaker. I just want to say that it's really frustrating, you know, in this day and age, after that quote, that the government still to this day maintain the illegal occupation of the lands that they have stolen from us and continue to steal, you know. It's really frustrating that after we had terra nullius overturned, rather than working in with our people to organise some sort of sovereign agreement, they create the Native Title Act. And the Native Title Act does not give us does not recognise our sovereign rights, our legal rights to the titles of the lands that they develop, that they use for mining, that they steal our resources from. Native title is not self-determination. And it's really frustrating that the wrong things are taught in this country, you know, and there is no proper education to non-Aboriginal people on the actual illegalities of what occur on a day-to-day basis. Our people are constantly thrown under the bus. They're constantly persecuted in the media. They're constantly persecuted on social media, you know, within society. And what people don't understand is that we want our self-determination. We fight for our self-determination, and we protest right across the country on similar issues, regardless of where we come from, you know, and what nation we come from. And it's really frustrating that we have to defend ourselves in a land that constantly, you know, within a system that constantly pushes us down and oppresses us and suppresses us, like Aunty June was saying. And it's really sad that we try to work our way up. We try and fight for our rights. We try and assert our sovereignty, and then they create all of these laws and use their armed forces to silence us. So then they bring in things like these protest laws. They want to stop the filming of police officers which actually helps us, because we film, there's a lot of things that wouldn't have been brought to justice if we hadn't filmed the police officers during the course of their conduct. And it doesn't matter what we push forward with, they're constantly pushing us down, pushing us back. We have all of these Aboriginal corporations right around the country that only serve certain groups of people. They don't allow us on the ground to self-determine. And back in 1972, the Australian government actually signed on, you know, to UN, the UN resolution, I think it was 2625 or 2629, something like that. And it was actually the right to self-determination. So they actually agreed that we, as the Indigenous peoples of this land, had the right to self-determine our own affairs. And it's really frustrating when they have things like native title. You know, they have Aboriginal people in Parliament that don't stand up. They're not staunch to speak for the grassroots people. They speak the government agenda and the government policies. They don't listen to the grassroots people on the grounds. Yet every day we protest, and we're telling them, this is what we want, this is what we need. We are the true and only sovereign people of this country. Right across the nation, all the First Nations across this country are the legal land title holders. What they've done is they have stolen and taken over our ancestral inheritance. Like, that's ours. And like Aunty June was saying, you got many dreaming places that have been taken over and either destroyed, or they're taken over by pastoralists and farmers, you know, and things that benefit the government and what the government want, rather than respecting and supporting the oldest living culture in this world. Not just in the Southern Hemisphere, you know, not just in certain parts of Australia, but in the whole world, Aboriginal culture is the oldest living culture. And rather than embrace it, the government seek to destroy it. They seek to silence it. They seek to oppress it, push it away, assimilate it. In WA, we had a chief protector back in the early 90s called A.O. Neville. And he actually said that by the third generation, if the kids are assimilated or bred out with non-Aboriginal people, that eventually the Aboriginal blood and culture would be lost. And that's not the case, because our people are strong. We are staunch. And like Aunty June was saying, we will continue to fight until we are taken back to where we came from, you know, and we lay with our ancestors. We're not going to stop because it's in our blood. And we have been resilient this whole time. Like in WA, our lands were stolen in 1829, and we still fight to this day, nearly 200 years later. And at the moment, we have a native title settlement that is being forced on us that we don't want. It's a government settlement, and the High Court recently dismissed our case when we appealed against the settlement. And there was no justification for it. So we're still trying to find other avenues to fight against that and to, you know, take control of our own affairs. Like, I am sick and tired of mainstream services taking our money. I'm sick and tired of the Aboriginal elite taking our money and dictating, and then turning into jackies where they're not listening to the people on the ground. And this is what I want non-Aboriginal society to understand, is that we are trying, we are fighting. Like, we are not just sitting back and being the stereotypical drunk or welfare recipient or, you know, non-attentive parent or sitting on the streets begging. Like, that is not us as Aboriginal people. That is what the government and the media portray us as. And that's not us. We are a strong people that are trying to take control of our own affairs, but government policies are continually pushing us down and not allowing grassroots people to take the helm, to run the corporations, to sit in those positions where our voices are heard, monies are directed where they're supposed to. There are so many simple solutions to stop our people being incarcerated, to stop our children being removed, to stop mining and development and protect our environment, to preserve our culture and make sure that the foundations continue till the end of time. But the government don't want to listen to those simple solutions. They want to make everything harder to make it look like we're not actually doing anything and we can't help ourselves. And then we've got to listen to people that speak on Sky News with Andrew, with Andrew, what's his name, Bolt and others like that, and people that sit in government like Ken Wyatt and others that speak as an Aboriginal voice because they're an Aboriginal person, but they're not speaking the words that we want them to speak. They don't represent us. There's no cultural mandate for all of these land councils that represent us. We have the Southwest Aboriginal Land and Sea Council. In WA, the government will not speak to us if we are not a member of the Southwest Aboriginal Land and Sea Council. They won't listen to us. They say that they're the representative body for us when it comes to cultural stuff or anything to do with the land, but they do not have a cultural mandate. They are a corporation created under the Native Title Act to manage native title lands. They're not there as a cultural body to fight for the preservation of our culture or to fight for what it is that we need or to assert our sovereign rights. They're there to be a dictatorship with policies implemented by government, and they listen to government. They don't listen to us. And if we're not a member of that corporation, of that land council, then we don't get any information about anything. We got to ask people that are members of SWALS, what's going on? What are the land council doing? You know, what are the government doing? And they only have about 5,000 or 6,000 members, and there's about 40,000 members of Nyoongar people, like Nyoongar people on Nyoongar country. You know, so where we stand is that the Constitution is invalid. What we have in this country is a constitutional crisis because, in my view, the 1967 referendum was unlawful. Our people, my Nyoongar people, did not consent for Section 127 to be removed or for Section 5126 to be amended. We did not consent for the government to say that they're allowed to make laws for our people because we maintain our sovereignty right until this day. Under international law, the only way that a country could be settled or discovered or whatever under all their laws of discovery was you could either be conquered by war, you were ceded and engaged in some sort of treaty agreement, or you had the terra nullius settlement notion if lands were unoccupied and things like that. But as people know with our culture, our people are seasonal and move around from different areas. You still had your territories where you moved around throughout. In Nyoongar country, we got the 6 seasons. So you would move around those different ones. And so when it comes to the terra nullius notion, we already know that Mabo No. 2 overturned that notion. So that doesn't exist. So their very foundation they used to invade our country and to rob us of our lands, our ancestral inheritance, was taken away. So they are unlawful to this day. So the Constitution and their very foundation is null and void. And this is in my view, and I know a lot of people right across the country agree with that. But I can only speak as a Nyoongar Yoorga from my family, you know, from the southwest of WA. And it's really frustrating that we've got to deal with things like the statement of the heart and constitutional recognition and all the stuff that they wanted to put through when they were up in Yalara, because a lot of my people were left out of that statement of the heart discussion. All the constitutional recognition forums that occurred on my country, my family were not even involved. And they sit there and they say that they consulted people on the ground. They never consulted my family, and I come from one of the biggest families on Nyoongar country, and my family weren't involved. Our bloodline runs through the whole 14 nations of the southwest. So 30 to 40,000 Nyoongars, half of them would be my own bloodline. And it's really frustrating that you've got Aboriginal people, First Nations people in Parliament pushing for constitutional recognition when the majority of people that I've spoken to have said, no, we're sovereign. Our sovereignty has never been ceded, so why would we want to give in to a government policy that continues to dictate and has no concern or no respect for the true sovereign landholders of this country? The land titles right across this country belong to First Nations peoples, We are the true heirs, the true successors of every single ancestral inheritance since the beginning of time, since time immemorial. The Crown did not have the right to come here from Britain and take what did not belong to them. They didn't respect our people. They haven't engaged in any sort of treaty agreement. And I support a treaty agreement where it is a sovereign treaty agreement. I don't want our country to have the same mistakes that they have made with all of these treaties around the world where they can be broken. When they want to talk about constitutional recognition, they need to get rid of their unlawful constitution. They need to sit down with every single nation across this country in Australia, and they need to develop a new constitution with the First Peoples holding the very head of that discussion right around the country. And it doesn't matter how much time that takes. If they want to truly respect every single nation across this country, over 500 nations, however many it is, they need to get elders and leaders from each of those nations, and they need to do it properly. They don't go sitting down with little jackies or quislings, compradors, whatever people want to call them, and they need to get in contact with all the family groups that actually have a cultural mandate to speak for that country. Not land councils, you know, not government appointed people, not government elected people, but Aboriginal peoples right across the country that have the cultural mandate to speak for their people and engage in a proper sovereign agreement discussion with a new constitution. And I think that's my 15 minutes up. I could probably keep going. But it's just really frustrating that we have to listen to dictatorship, government policy, and listen to Aboriginal people sitting in Parliament that are saying the wrong things that people don't want on the ground. And it's really frustrating that those people get mainstream airtime rather than the government sitting down and respecting the cultural mandate under our tribal boundary laws right across this country. And getting in with each of the different language groups and getting their take on everything. Because if they truly want to talk to our people and truly want to respect our culture, they have to respect our cultural laws and protocols and talk to the actual people that are allowed to speak for their people. And then develop some sort of agreement encompassing every single person that has a right to speak. Not just the hand-picked ones that government want to talk to because they're the yes people. And it needs to be an honest and truthful debate, and they need to honour the truth of this country. They need to tell the true history of this country. Like Aunty June said, we've got murderers going right back to the invasion in every single country, and their statues need to tell the truth. Their history needs to tell the truth, and they need to respect our people right across every single nation. And remember, sovereignty never ceded, and it never will be. So those discussions need to start happening immediately. So I think that's me, eh? Is that 15 minutes? Otherwise, I'll keep going because I could talk all day. That's it, Anna?
That's
Was that
wonderful.
15 minutes?
That's wonderful.
Thank you, Aunty.
Kathy, you're on mute, Kathy.
Sorry, thanks for telling me that. And my apology for my phone, and I haven't worked out how to silence it, so it's off. Okay, yeah, well, gee, if someone else wanted to say something, I don't know what there is to say beyond that, but because I couldn't pick out any part of that, Marianne, but it was brilliant. And but I'm going to have a go at one bit, which is, you know, it's not that hard. Why can't they listen? Why can't they take the steps to, you know, towards justice? And yeah, I can't say it anymore. So Caroline is our next speaker, Carolyn Ienna, who did get a chance to introduce herself. I've got simply here as a rapper and hip hop artist, but what I do want to say is thank you to Caroline, because we did have a late apology for someone who couldn't speak, and that was Nick Milyari Fitzpatrick from Borroloola. If there's a chance, I might just give a little quote from him at the end. But so thank you so much, Caroline, for stepping in to our forum and making it, you know, such a great forum. So over to you, Caroline. Thank you.
Oh, I'm on. You think I'm on? Am I on?
Yes. Yes.
Oh.
You're on, Caroline.
Yeah. Hi everybody. I'm Carolyn, otherwise known as Rapatak. I'm long-term in the hip hop culture and my culture as well, which is Wiradjuri. Well, I'm going through the processes of what's the word? Learning my language, my dances, etc. Because as most people will know, a lot of us were told not to speak language. Either that or our parents or grandparents, you know, the older ones, the ancestors, they were told repeatedly, you can't speak language. So language wasn't passed on to me. So about 10 years ago, though, my mum did go and learn. She lives on country. And so she was learning. I'm not sure if she's learnt further than language, but anyway, she was constantly saying to me, you know, you should learn, you should learn. And then eventually Eora College at Redfern area was had advertised it some years ago, and I thought, okay, well, I better do it. I'm hesitant to always walk into government institutions, places of whatever they might be. People might say learning, but learning is something very different as a First Nations person. It's something you don't necessarily have to walk into a building. But before I continue, I really should say I'm so, this is fantastic for me, because outside of activism, I haven't come across such a group of staunch First Nations people before. So I'm used to, I'm the person on the street, you know, yelling the chants, leading the chants often as well. I'm usually the loudest. So to come across other people that are the same, really, if not more than me, is super exciting. And one of the things that I get told a lot, and thank you, by the way, thank you, this has really excited me a lot. One of the things I get told a lot, which is very disturbing, is, oh, why do you have to be so loud and so angry? If you untangle that, that's probably stuff that we've had to fight back. And I mean fight back on every level. We've had to fight back for our family, for our ancestors, for our land. You know, it's all our mother. Everybody's our mother. So it's going to happen eventually that we're going to morph from being this peaceful, and we're still peaceful, quiet spoken people. You know, I still have those moments, but the thing is, I'm just constantly in survival mode, trying to fight for everything. And also, I'm a disabled person. I also fight for my trans community, because trans people are usually the ones that are the most, what's the word? The most violence is inflicted upon them. And can you imagine if you're First Nations and a trans person as well? The violence committed upon them is just untold. And there was a place for trans people in my ancestors' time that doesn't seem to be here now. And I just want people to reach out a lot more to trans people, because also the suicide level is extremely high. Of course, we've still got we're the most incarcerated people on the planet. And as several others have said, you know, in some of the jails, we are 100% of the people there, especially when it comes to children's jails. Children should not be in a jail, ever. Anyway, I'm going to look at my list and see what else I'm going to rant about. I'm used to usually just rapping about all these types of things. And yes, that is someone else's culture. And that's someone else's culture that I learned before I learnt more about mine. I learnt from the hip hop culture that it's about disenfranchised people of colour. African Americans, you know, utilised the medium of hip hop culture in order to educate people about their plight, their marginalisation, disenfranchisation, and everything that they have had to endure since they were taken from their continent. Also, a lot of people within hip hop culture are First Nations people as well. I think people think it's only an African American experience. It's actually more than that. And that's why you will find a lot of people here, First Nations people here on this continent, and notice I don't say Australia because I don't recognise that. There's a lot of people within hip hop culture here. And a lot of us, it was a gateway into learning our own culture, because up until that point, we didn't know a lot of things. So I'm really happy that last year I started learning my language through Eora College, even though the coloniser paid for it. Rightly so, because who else was going to pay for it? So I don't live on country, so I haven't got those elders there to teach me. I live on Gadigal land. So yes, sovereignty and self-determination. You know, we're a sovereign people, as you know, the three speakers before me said. I'm so happy that you guys put it together so well. You know, so I'm not sure how to add to that, because I feel sovereign. I don't have to, what's the word? In a sense, I don't have to explain it, but unfortunately, since we're such a minority of the population on this continent right now, because of colonisation, because of murder, genocide, and all those words people don't like to say, I have to shout it. And I shout it the most at activist events and, you know, out on the street, and or when I'm on stage rapping about it. And we need self-determination, because the thing is, you know, as the auntie said, we're constantly just fighting. And we need to have a say in every area of our life, and that Northern Territory intervention is just, it breaks my heart. It should break everybody's heart. It's unfortunate that it should break everybody's heart, but it should break everybody's heart. It's evil to me. I can't think of anything else. That John Howard, he needs his ass kicked royally, and I know he couldn't do it without other people that had the same mindset that the coloniser has. And let's face it, let's call it for what it is. It's white supremacy. And I know a lot of people don't like to get into that realm, because they think we're saying all white people are bad. It's whiteness that we're talking about. White supremacy is about how you were raised, what you were told, how you use your white privilege. And if you want to break that, you need to reach out. You need to find out who the people are, whose land that you're living on, and find out what they need. And you need to go through every uncomfortable experience we don't need to coddle you. I'm not here to coddle you, okay? I don't get coddled by whoever around me. They tell me as it is, straight out. So don't expect to be coddled. There's a lot of love in being told the truth, right? I don't often use that word because love is often something that is used in a very false way, and also there's a lot of performative allyship, which is something that people greatly misunderstand. They think just because one First Nations person says this, then all First Nations people say the same thing. And that's not the case. We are individuals, but we live in groups. Usually, unfortunately, with some people, they were taken away and never were to find their family again. It took me a long time to find my family, even though I was never taken away. My mum wasn't taken away. But the separation and the divisiveness that has occurred since colonisation is very damaging. It's damaging on the psyche. It's damaging on the body. Everything is interconnected. So the thing is, yeah, everybody needs to connect with whoever's country that you're living on, and you know, meet a broad variety of people. Anyway, I don't want to have to keep doing the work. So a good example of some of the things that people should learn by is, we had a year ago, or maybe was it less, that we had all the fires. Now there's the traditional fire burning practices. As we know, these stupid organisations are doing they do burnings, but the thing is, it has nothing to do with traditional fire burning practices. It's just, oh, let's just burn everything that's here. Animals die, trees die, every bit of plants dies there. And the plants that come back are not the ones that we need. That is, the way that they're doing it right now is not good. It's not conducive. So the thing is, I was really heartened to see that there was a particular guy, and I can't think of his name. Is it Stefan? Anyway, he's been getting quite a lot of limelight about traditional fire burning practices across the continent. And it is a continent because we are a lot of countries. This is not a country. And so he's been able to teach certain councils those traditional fire burning practices so that we can do something practical and tangible now. Of course, we're heading into the same type of season, and a lot of this continent will burn again because they don't learn easily. And this is what I mean about listening. Okay, International Human Rights Day, that's something that is really important because it's not just about First Nations. But when we're talking about disability rights, we're talking about who have a very high rate of disabilities, First Nations people. We're talking about other marginalised groups like the queer community and the trans community, which is the same, pretty much the same thing, but the thing is, we have them too amongst First Nations people. They need to be respected as well. Okay, January 26th is fast approaching. So we've got Survival Day, Invasion Day rally. Obviously in different capital cities, that'll be happening, and in Sydney, we've got one happening, and I can't think who's organising it, but I'm usually there every year, and then we have Yarbin afterwards. So I would invite that people definitely come along to that march. I know it often seems like not a lot is being done and not a lot of progress is happening, and yes, I would agree in a lot of ways, but it's a good way for people to hear directly from First Nations people what the experience is. And you're going to come across a lot of very, very, very staunch First Nations people, and I recommend that you just learn to listen to us and not try to box us and say, well, we have to behave in a certain way in order for you to listen. That's something that you're just going to have to, what do they say, get a thick skin about. What else was I going to talk about? Yeah, just pretty much to get rid of that thing about if you're meeting someone and they seem too angry or want to talk about all their pain and suffering, because you've got people that through that process of colonisation and the high rate of people with mental health issues as well, you're going to get people that are extra, extra angry, and rightly so. And, you know, people get so unwell and, you know, they have miscarriages because, you know, if your body has so much suffering within it, it's very difficult to have a healthy body and healthy mind. Yes, anyway, I can't really think of anything else because a lot of the stuff I was thinking of was very much covered by the previous speakers, and I'm just so happy to hear from them.
Okay. Thank you, Caroline. Every person has built on the last person and all the speeches. It's been so powerful tonight. And I'm looking, I think our time is coming close, and I'd like to invite Lynda-June, who is a Wiradjuri and Badu Island woman from New South Wales. Lynda is a cultural educator, activist and PhD candidate, and a representative of Fighting in Solidarity Towards Treaty. And that group is known as FIST, Fighting in Solidarity Towards Treaty. So please welcome Lynda. And thank you, Lynda. Yes.
Thanks for that. Can you hear my sounds okay? Okay.
Yes, I think so.
All right. I'd like to also thank the 4 other speakers here this evening. They've pretty much outlined everything that we could possibly address under, you know, the topics of sovereignty and self-determination. Those issues are fundamentally, you know, as Marianne mentioned earlier, it stems right back to 1770 with the proclamation of British sovereignty. And that falsehood that this country was uninhabited. We're still living with that mistruth today. Although it was overturned in the Mabo High Court decision, it still lives within Australia's political and legal system. Gosh, where do I go with this? I guess as a Wiradjuri and Badu Island woman, I'm going to speak about sovereignty and what it actually means to me. Sovereignty, as it's been taught to me by my elders, is that fundamentally we are a free people. Right now, we are not. We're imprisoned. We've been in prison for over 200 years. When we mean sovereignty has never been ceded, it means that we have never given our free, prior, informed consent to the occupation of our country. Nor have we given our consent to the extraction of our lands and our resources. Nor have we given our consent to the kidnapping of our children over the last 200 years, or the continuing plunder and pillage of this continent in its entirety. Sovereignty means for me, it means that I have an obligation to my country. as we understand, or if you understand how Western sovereignty operates, what it ultimately means is that there's a supreme ruler or authority in the form of governments. Aboriginal sovereignty is the complete opposite. The land is the sovereign. Aboriginal people are its custodians. So when we resist and protect our country and our people, we are asserting our sovereign rights. The complexities around defining what sovereignty actually means is that we're constantly having to translate it into English, in the English language and terms. But just to give you an idea of that, of how complex it is, there are 500 different understandings in this country of what sovereignty actually means. So in hindsight of that, you know, we talk about self-determination, but we're still not even recognized as a people or as tribes or as distinct peoples that belong to their own institutions and their own systems, their own governance practices, etc., like what Uncle was talking about before, being at the decision-making tables, which, you know, have been inherited since time immemorial. Those institutions are still in place, those systems are still in place, but at this present time, and for 200 years, they've been under constant domination. That domination has an agenda, that the agenda is, you know, to erase us and to annihilate us off the face of the planet. What, you know, here in Australia, we're a part of a global movement, and we don't necessarily talk about it as much because, you know, we're fighting domestically just to be recognised as peoples. But if we learn from mob over in the US and in New Zealand, they're all experiencing the same conditions, the same issues, regardless if they've had their sovereignty recognised or not. They're up against the same machine in that they're still invisible, they're still silenced. And now we're at that stage where we need to be talking about dismantling this system. Aboriginal sovereignty demands that this system be abolished and replaced. It needs to be replaced. It needs to reflect the multicultural people that now inhabit this country. And what we're talking about is a new way of looking at the world through an old lens. A new way of looking at the world that has 80,000 years of knowledge behind it. Now, you know, we talk about human rights and everything like that, but the United Nations, when we actually look at it as an institution, it was founded out of the world wars, World War I and World War II. You cannot find descriptions of humanity coming out of wars. You cannot go to a body like the United Nations and ask them or appeal to them to recognise Indigenous sovereignty or our basic human rights when they've been founded on war. So, you know, that's why I'm echoing this global movement around dismantling, abolishing the system. And that is state sovereignty. That is state institutions. That is the system that is currently destroying not only our people, but every single person on this planet. And that's how we need to be voicing it. Indigenous sovereignty is leading this movement, but it needs awakening. It needs an awakening from not only non-Aboriginal people, but everybody on this planet. Otherwise, we're just racing to our own doom. We're racing to our own doom. We're actually standing up for not only our future generations, but for your future generations as well. So, you know, we talk about white people taking the onus of educating themselves on what whiteness is and what privilege is, but we need you to look further. We need you to look further at the systems that are in place. We need you to look at the 1% that profit off of the capitalist society that we all have to get up the 9-to-5 grind that you are programmed to. Okay? We can't keep living the way that we are. Because at the moment, we're programmed and we need to wake up. And that means you're going to have to, you know, get out of your comfort zones. You know, Aunty said we need mass education. We need mass mobilisation. We need people to walk off their jobs, walk out of their homes, and go and sit down there and we erect the 10 embassy once more. And we don't move. We don't move until we dismantle the system. Because while the rivers are going dry, while fracking is continuing right through the territory, while our children are being locked up in jails, that system you all profit and benefit from, and it needs to be dismantled. I urge you to, you know, get behind First Nations struggles, but I also you to take some leadership in your own circles as well and start talking about white supremacy and the need to dismantle it amongst yourselves. That's how we're going to move this country forward, by eradicating racism. Thank you very much.
Deadly, darling. Deadly.
Thank you, Aunty.
It's fantastic. Yeah. Look, all the speakers on the panel, there's just a few minutes, and you know, maybe you want to say something to each other. You've all built on such a powerful story because, you, as you've said, you stand in the truth. Maybe, Mongunu, can I start with you? Is there something you'd like to say to finish off? Mongunu, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah. I think the strongest message that I have received from all of the speakers is to stand on the ground that where we all belong to.
Yes.
And to fight really hard and bring in with us these are the emerging generation that are coming in. Sister said last speaker, bringing those that are on the other side, to bringing into our yard. So we together can stand there in the future. And I think by actually doing that, we are compassing and we are in the command position for our future. I think that's how can I can just note it that I can just finish up with that the nice touch of the end product that we need to be. It is our ground. It is our people. We have to be in control. We are the commander of this community. This land belongs to us.
Beautiful. Aunty June.
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for sharing this time. It's really lovely. It gives strength to our old bones. Real joy, you know, feel the joy bubbling up, just hearing us all speaking with one voice and filling in each other's gaps and you know, adding more to the story. And I was so happy with all of us, of course, but you know, younger people speaking still this truth, and like I say, brings happiness and strength to all bones. I'd like to send my love and my appreciation to your families, you know, to continue standing up. Our people talking 232 years ago, they didn't have a chance. I suppose one thing that stands out for me, I don't like the word war because, you know, it's not a war. If anything, it's an undeclared war. It's not a war. It's a total massacre, actually, because we're not in a war situation with them. If anything, we're in a defensive situation. So I really resent the word war being used. If anything, undeclared war, not war, massacre, pure massacre. Our people never had a chance, and we still don't have a chance, actually. It's not a government. We've got to stop calling it a government. It's not a government. It's a bunch of thieving, murderous, insane, criminally insane thugs that are running the country for their raping and pillaging the country. Let's stop calling them a government. They're not a government. And yeah, more strength to you, darling. I love yous. I love us. I love the fact that not one of us on the whole continent have ever ceded sovereignty, have never buckled. We stand tall and we continue. I love that. If nothing else in my lifetime gives me joy to myself and to my family, it's a fact that not one of us had ceded or sold out, and that gives me, my life would be over if it was any other way. My life would be over, but hey, we can celebrate the fact, how big is this country, how many of us, how many different tribes, how many different families, how many bloodlines, and not one of us have ceded to these murderous thugs, bullies, rapists, pillagers, pirates.
Pirates, absolutely.
Yeah, pirates. Mate, call them what they are. Yeah, love yous.
Beautiful. Marianne.
Yeah, I just want to say big loves to everyone and thanks to all the speakers and UseMob too, you know, for allowing our voices to be heard on such an important issue. I just want to say that we can't walk this path alone, you know. We need non-Aboriginal people to walk with us, you know, and allow us to lead the way and have their support. And we're not going to stop fighting until, you know, the truth of this country is actually, and the rightful ownership of this country is put back in the hands of the First Nations peoples. And I just want to say I agree with what everybody said, and that we do need to dismantle this system, like Lynda was saying. And I think that the only way that we're going to move forward is if, you know, the institutions do be honest with themselves and realise that we are the truth tellers of this country, we are the holders of the history of this country, and we are the true owners and custodians of the lands that they rape and pillage every day and dictate, you know, to our people. And just on one note, when it comes to the human rights and the UN and that, Australia is a signatory to the United Nations rights, you know, of Indigenous peoples and all these human rights legislations, genocide conventions and all of this, but they don't honour none of that because in their minds they don't have to. You know, they think that what they're doing isn't wrong and that it's right for them, and they truly don't respect the people of the country, of all the nations right across the country. Otherwise they do the right thing and actually do what we need them to do and reconcile with themselves. Because in Australia there is no such thing as reconciliation, because reconciliation means that we had a good relationship from the very onset when they came to our country, and we never had a good relationship from the start. They murdered our people, they massacred our people, you know, they sexually abused our women and our children, and they created a place that wasn't safe for anyone to live, not even their own people. So what they need to do is go and reconcile with their own truth, and all we can do is conciliate. And what we have to do to conciliate is we have to build new relationships and forge new relationships that are based on truth and honesty, not based on backwards genocidal policies and massacres and murders and rapes and pillaging and all those negative things that they brought here. And I just want to say thank you right across the country to all the non-Aboriginal people that constantly walk with us, that learn from us, you know, we all learn from each other as well. And I think it's really important that we keep that space going and create even more relationships with each other so that we can truly keep walking forward on a path that benefits every single person in this country, but upholds the true custodians on that platform that we deserve to be as part of our ancestral inheritance that they stole from us and continue to. So that's all I wanted to say, and much love to everyone. It's been an honour to listen and be a part of this, and I just want to say big loves, big respect, and enjoy your holidays, and let's bring on 2021 and see what we can create together to honestly move forward the way that we need to and want to.
And Caroline and Lynda, in 4 minutes, can you share 4 minutes to give us your last thoughts? It's been such an amazing event. Thank you, everyone.
We can just say that thank you very much, Aunty June. I absolutely 100% agree that it's an undeclared war. And yeah, I'll correct my language and move on from here. And big love to everybody. Yeah, thank you.
And Lynda.
Yeah, I'd just like to say a big thank you to everybody for showing up here this evening. Aunty June, of course, Uncle, my sister girl Marianne there. Nice to meet you, Carolyn. Also got to give a shout out to my sister girl Hayley there. I can see you there, sister girl. But yeah, thank you so much for listening in. And it's always wonderful to share space and to share our stories as well. Struggle, pain, but also love as well. You know, everything that we do is done from love. Love for our people, love for our children, love for our countries, love for our rivers. And that's ultimately why we fight. We fight from love. And I'd like to leave it there. Thank you very much.
All I can say is for all of us that weren't on the panel, the audience, I just think we're completely privileged to have been able to listen to you. It's been our privilege, and I hope people on this connect with the YouTube and send it around to other people and more widely. So we really do have to sign off. It's moving on to the Western Sydney AGM, but we do thank Western Sydney Reconciliation for facilitating this, the Zoom. And just a reminder, Stop the Intervention Collective, if you want to get active, is one avenue to just keep fighting the fight and staying in tune. Thank you from the bottom of everybody's heart. Thank you 100-fold. Thank you.